Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Transfigured Life. We are here. Man, Father, I feel like it's been a while. so much,
It's been a
so much
while
has happened.
between Pascha and Holy Week and this and that and all kinds of trips to Mount Athos. Oh, we should talk about that. Wow.
Yes,
Christ is
yes.
risen, everybody.
Indeed, he is risen. Indeed, he is risen. So we're coming at a different time and sometime in the afternoon of a Saturday, but it is great to see you again, Father. I know it's been some time. In between the time that you've been gone and now you've had a lot of stuff going on online. you know, so your time in Mount Athos, there's been fires exploding. Uh-oh, they said something's wrong with the audio. Um,
I can hear you fine. Oh, now you're muted.
okay. Thank you. How about now? Thank you for letting me know. It says something's going on with the audio. All right, so am I good? And I always
Yeah, you
have
sound
something
good.
strange
Yeah.
happen. Okay. Something always happens when I'm figuring out the live stuff. But okay, cool. It said I was cutting in and out. Yes, Christ is risen. All right. So they said they can hear me fine now. Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. So yeah, as we were saying, you have, as you were gone, it seemed like there was just a lot happening, and I don't know if you've seen, there's been like a back and forth between like some people in certain Protestant apologetic traditions. You also have, Orthodox people having conversations back and forth. Hey, good afternoon, Frank. Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. Christ is risen. But before we even get there, Father, I want to hear
Oh,
about this Mount Athos trip.
just lost Justin's video. Right. Just fill in a little bit until he gets back to us. What we wanted to talk about today were two things recently. One was a trip to Mount Athos that I took between May 1st and May 9th. God willing, next May, there's going to be another one that I'll be leading, which will be my third. And this is going to be open to anybody who wants to come. So there we go. Everybody's back. Okay. Indeed, he is risen, Julianne.
Yes.
Thank you for
Father,
that reading. Indeed, he's risen. So during the past period, where you don't need what they're saying, Christos Anesti, you know, time. So we're having some problems with connections. I'm very sorry about that. Can everybody hear me? And I'll have an idea of whether we're transmitting the way we should be. So can you hear me and see me? If you could just let me know in the comment section, that would be most helpful. Okay, we just want to make sure everybody's hearing us and seeing us. Okay. So this this trip to Mount Athos, oh boy, I'm going to put myself on hold for a minute, and I'll be right back. So I'm just going to put myself on hold for 1 minute. Okay, so let me. I'm going to stop my cam. I'll be right back. I think I know what might be happening here.
all right. Did I just lose Father Jonathan? So I must have lost him. I don't know why I always have the audio problems or the video problems. I feel like I should have gotten the hang of this by now. I can't at the moment. Just a minute. Your video is frozen. Your voice is cutting out. Is that me? Am I still cutting out a little bit? Let me see. All right, all right,
Okay,
all right.
hopefully that those changes I
Father,
just made will help with the stream.
Father, can you see and hear me?
Okay, we're back. Uh, I can see and hear you. Yes.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. All right,
Okay.
someone said
Hopefully
everything.
we're all bettery. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you,
perfect, perfect.
Nikos. Evaristo.
So, Father, tell us about your trip in Mount Athos. Tell us everything. What happened? What were some of the
Okay.
things you?
Uh, Mount Athos, everybody who's Orthodox, and even an awful lot of people who are not Orthodox have heard about Mount Athos. And especially since about, I want to say 10 years ago, when of all people or of all groups, 60 Minutes did a special on Mount Athos that became one of their highest viewed um, segments in a very long time. And Bob Simon, who I believe was Jewish, went there and was just treated wonderfully by the monks there. I think he spent most of his time at Simonos Petros, and it went so well he went back and did a second one there. And that really exposed Mount Athos to an incredibly wider audience who might have heard of it or you know whatever, and then but they really learned much about the holy mountain from that. And at the same time that was happening, around the same time, kind of overlapping, UNESCO had declared Mount Athos a World Heritage Site and had given it a lot of money for improvements in roads and connecting the monasteries to one another, and in guest facilities and things like that. And it really shows when you go there, and not only just building roads and facilities, but actually restoring these buildings. In many of the places are 1,000 years old, if not older. And there's been a presence on Mount Athos. People, well, there's been monasteries on for 1,000 years. A presence on Mount Athos, an president who lived there in the 7th century. And when you go to Iveron Monastery, the so-called Georgian monastery, there's a wall in the back of the complex that they archaeologically know around the 7th century, which is around the time he lived, and they think that was part of his complex. So there has been a monastic on Athos for probably about 1,500 years, but there's been a really organized presence like you see today that dates back about 1,000 years. So people say, well, what's on Mount Athos? If you look at, I can do that. Okay, look at a map, and it looks up here is Thessaloniki, and then there's this big sort of landmass right below Thessaloniki, and then below it are 3 peninsulas. And Mount Athos is the easternmost peninsula that has about 20 monasteries on it. But in addition to the monasteries, there are dependencies of the monasteries called skeets, and further dependencies called kelly or cells, which probably means there's about, maybe as nobody really knows for sure, but about 3,000 monks and probably as many lay people living there who work at the monasteries, who are doing construction renovation, who help the monks with different things that they don't have time to do. So it's really an incredible networked community that furthermore is its own republic. It's its own autonomous monastic republic within the Republic of Greece. You actually need a passport, a special passport called a diamoniterion to get in there, and you have to have that or you can't get in. And you have to be furthermore male. They don't let women into Mount Athos; only men go in. So you have this incredible place that's been there for a long time, that has gone through sort of what one person could call, when I was up there, called the glory years, of several hundred years ago, when there were at one time, people think, between 30,000 and 100,000 monks living on Mount Athos, in as many as perhaps 30 monasteries. So there's an incredible history there. Of course, the Ottoman occupation made the monastic community suffer quite a bit. And in the 19th and 20th century, there was a period of decline, which beginning in the 1980s began to change as the disciples of St. Joseph the Hesychast moved on to become abbots of other monasteries and renew the monastic Cenobitic life that is, of course, the heart of monastic life there. So there is really an incredible opportunity for men to go there and to see something that is unlike anything we have here in America. The Ephraimite monasteries come close to kind of repeating something that is over there, but the sheer size of everything there, the ancientness of everything there, the icons you see that we hear about and that we celebrate as feast days throughout the year. The Axio Sistine, for example, which is in the Protestant church in Kerias, the monastic capital of Mount Athos. These icons that we've heard about, that we have copies probably of in our churches, and very small copies, these huge icons that are 2-3 feet by 4 or 5 feet tall, bejeweled and bedecked with gold and silver, that are ancient, are just incredible. And it's incredible to stand in their presence and just feel a sense of holiness that is unlike anything I've ever felt anywhere else. So Athos is a very special place. I would go so far as to call it the spiritual center of Orthodoxy. Sorry to anybody who thinks that the Ecumenical Patriarch is that, but I think Mount Athos is definitely, one could argue, the spiritual center of world Orthodoxy. There is a Serbian monastery there. There's a Russian monastery there. There is a Bulgarian monastery there. Ivanov used to be a Georgian, considered the Georgian monastery. The rest are all Greek. And they are extremely wonderful places to go visit. It's interesting to note, by the way, that the monasteries have sort of written into their constitutions that they have to be hospitable, that they have to be welcoming of guests. So when people go there, it's in their nature to feed you, to, if they have room, to let you stay there overnight, things like that. The skeets don't have to be that way, and we had some interesting encounters with monks and skeets that were not very hospitable. But for the most part, the monasteries are, the Kellys are, and it's an incredible place. And gentlemen, all the men that are watching this, I hope at some point in time you get to go. I'm going back next May with an organized tour. Friend my Facebook page, and you'll hear more about it. Mr. Menard, to my let's see, to my over here. Hopefully he'll be going. I want to take him with me.
Yeah, I'd love
and it's
to
kind
go.
of thing, like I said, that every man should see. Now, to the ladies that might be watching this, please encourage your husbands and your sons and brothers and so forth to go, because it can be a challenging and life-changing experience.
What would you say, Father? Oh, actually, question from Orthodox Philip. He said, Father, did you go there with Thaddeus Patrick by any chance? I heard he went there recently. Did you go there?
I did not. I don't know who he is, but there were other tours that were there at the same time we were there. The organized tour that I was on was through a company called Orthodox Tours, owned and operated by Father Ilya Gotlinsky, orthodoxtours.com. And that's the one that we will be going on with next year. And I highly recommend it, because when you get there, there is a local tour guide named Ivan who has been there. He's been on Mount Athos more than 30 times. He knows, I mean, every monastery we went to, he knew people there. Which is really nice, because we got to go into places that other people did not get to go into. Churches that they did not open for other tourists, they opened for us. So that was really kind of neat to have someone with us who knew the territory very, very, very well, and the history very, very, very well. that makes it special, because you're not just going in, seeing a church, leaving and going. So it's not Orthodox sightseeing. We wanted to go. We wanted to pray with the monks. We wanted to eat with the monks. We wanted to talk with them more than we got a chance to. But they're not there really to talk to us. We kind of have to understand that we're on their territory, and they live their lives the way they do, and we're kind of interrupting when we go. But we did get to go to services. We did get to eat in a couple places with the monks in some of the monasteries, and of course venerate the holy places, the icons, the relics that are just incredibly. There's just so many of them all around. And my favorite place to go is at St. Paul's Monastery, where in front of the iconostas on the right-hand side, there was a small box, and in that small box were the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh that were given to Jesus, that Mary preserved and has been handed down through the church to this day. So you can go there and actually see it and venerate those holy gifts. They're still there. So there are things like that that are that are there that you can venerate. And in addition, of course, to the relics of the many saints like St. John Chrysostom, St. John the Baptist, St. Basil the Great, St. Andrew the Apostle. Gosh, we could just go on and on and on. It's a place where there is holiness everywhere you turn, and it's a living connection to a past that we don't have here in America, but which is, of course, is very much alive there in that part of the world. So it's the kind of thing that is just something that would blow a Protestant's mind, and just something that more of our people have to experience.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Good stuff, Father. Well, Father, is there anything else that you wanted to say about Mount Athos? I did want to dive into what is called the Orthobro crisis, apparently.
Sure. Yeah. Just a few other things about Mount Athos. When you go there, you have to realize you're not going on vacation. The accommodations are not 5-star or even 4-star or maybe even 3-star, depending on where you stay. They're comfortable, but they're not meant to be opulent. They're not meant to be, Hilton or anything like that. And the entire mountain, of course, is I would say kind of vegetarian. So you're not going to be eating full course meals. And you're not going to see any meat, chicken, pork, or anything like that. We did have fish, and it's caught locally, and the food is very pure and very clean and very good. But you're not going there for a vacation. This is a pilgrimage, and so you're going there. Things are going to be a little bit uncomfortable, maybe. You may or may not have showers. You may or may not have the kind of toilets we have here in America. But again, you're not going for comfort. You're going to see and experience and pray in holy places, to venerate holy relics, to venerate holy icons. You're going there to pray. You're going there to renew. You're going there to feel something that you may not be able to feel here or experience here, as I said a moment ago. So it really is an experience that I think a lot of men here in America need to do. I mean, when we were there, and one other observation I had that I was very taken by last year when I went for the first time, there were a lot of men there who were there with their young sons. And I thought that was so cool. And the first thing I said to my own son, who's a grown man, I said to him that I wanted him to come with me on one of these trips. And then I wanted to go back when my grandson is maybe 8, that the 3 of us would go and experience Mount Athos together. But the boys that I saw there, maybe like 8, 9, 11, 12 years old, 14, something like that. They were all kinds of ages. But there were a lot of them. There were a lot of men from Serbia, from Romania, from some from Greece, and other countries, some from Russia, who were there with their kids. And I thought, what a wonderful experience for a young boy to experience something like this at very formative stages of their spiritual development, and not to come to miss it like we kind of do here, but to come and experience it and have it hopefully make a profound impression on their spiritual growth and spiritual development. So those are a couple other things. And again, just walking in the places where saints have walked. And there's a lot of them that come from Mount Athos, like, to go to the house where Saint Paisios lived, to go to Causa Calivia, where Saint Porphyrius lived, and so many others, of course, is really quite impressive. To go to Saint Paisios's grave, which is outside of Thessaloniki, to go to Saint Demetrius, where Saint Demetrius is, in his own church there, and other saints that are there, to go to just to go to these places and pray and venerate and meditate and reflect and just stand quietly, silently in a place of holiness. Now, I know our churches are holy here, and we have monasteries here, and holy people have walked there too. I understand all that. But this is on a scale that we don't experience here. And so consequently, as I said, I think it's something that men, if you can do it, try and go with a group, because it's a wonderful experience. I had 3 men from my own parish go this time around, and I saw the way they bonded. I saw the way they traveled together and ate together and talked together on the bus and things like that. And they're going to go back. They're going to come back to my parish closer as brothers than when they left. And it's that opportunity for shared experience that men sometimes get to have on a pilgrimage or something like that, that really is a profound experience that will last for decades. And I'm so thankful that they got to go. And I hope next year to take more from my parish, so that, excuse me, so that they will have an opportunity to see what they saw and form their own memories and experiences. So really wonderful time.
Love that, man. You're really selling it, Father. You sure you never had a job in sales?
I would probably make a good tour guide, although putting up with the people who are late to get on the bus and we got to go someplace, I'd probably leave them behind. So that wouldn't make me a good tour guide, but whatever.
Hey, sis, Christ is risen. She said, Father bless. It's good to see you. Good stuff.
Really is risen.
All right. Well, Father, we're gonna discuss a little bit of this what is considered a quote unquote Orthobro problem or phenomenon or crisis. I want to get your raw thoughts. Don't do none of that sugarcoat stuff for me. I want what what's on your mind, what's on your heart. But before we even get there, so somebody in the chat said, like, what does it even mean? Like, what's this concept? It's tough because, like, it's a made up word, right? That is starting to, like, have life to it. And I mean, you let me know what you think, Father, but from what I understand, it seems like this word is pretty much like kind of a term to, like, speak about things that people don't like about Orthodoxy, and they associate it with certain things, whether that's like certain aggressiveness that they see online, whether that's whether it's certain people that maybe, I don't know. It seems to almost form to have its own meaning to whoever's using it. I've seen Protestant apologists use the term. I've seen even Orthodox use the term, and I can understand to a degree, like, what someone is trying to say when they say the word, but then again, it looks different when everybody kind of uses it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Father? Have you heard people online being called Orthobro? A lot of times it's associated with Jay Dyer. What they say is Pope Dyer. What's your opinion? So let me know what you've heard, what you've seen. Actually, I'll say one more thing, Father. I think it's Ruslan. He's like a popular Protestant face.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, you know who he is. Protestant.
He comes from the Armenian Apostolic Church, interestingly.
Right. He's a commentator. I don't know if I can call him like a but this has been something he's levied. And there's this new guy I just recently, this guy named JP. Every week he's making like a video disrespecting. Well, I mean, he probably wouldn't say disrespecting, but trying to make attacks towards Orthodoxy, and I think that's his new like claim to fame. Have you seen any of that? What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm going to say something very controversial.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to say something very controversial, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people who will hate me from what I'm about to say, but I think it's true. I think Jay Dyer has brought more people into Orthodoxy than anybody else here in America in the last 10 years. Now, having said that, and I think it's true, because Jay's been doing this going back to 2017. So he's been doing it for about 9 years. And in 2019, I started to notice people mentioning him. Post COVID, of course, that picked up quite a bit. But I think he's to be credited, quite frankly, for bringing people into Orthodoxy. Now, having said that, there will be those who then say, but those he brings in, they're wild, they're unmanageable, they have all these ideas and they're crazy, this, that, and the other thing. That's not Jay's fault. That's the fault of the priest and the parish who is not forming these men who are coming in. I have had men like that come to my parish. I have had to deal with it, and it's not a problem. You just have to sit them down and say, okay, whatever you've heard online, now you're going to hear from me as your priest. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to believe. This is how you have to act, and so forth. And if they don't like that, they're going to leave. But to allow someone to come into your church unformed or formed only by the internet, only by online apologetics, and I don't mean just Jay, because there's a lot of other people online who are at this. I think that to just welcome the people who are coming in and go, oh, this is great, we got all these guys coming in, and do nothing to form them, that's the fault of the priest. And he can't complain about anybody else if he is not doing what he is supposed to do to take these men and correct what the internet may have corrupted in them. Now, I know that's not a lot of priests out there might be, now throwing things at their screen at me and things like that. I don't care. This is our fault if we are not forming these men the way they need to be formed. I used to teach guys that were people. I used to teach people coming in. I would start with the creed, but I realized a couple of years ago, I got to start with prayer. I got to start with fasting and almsgiving and the virtues and doing good works and things like that. And if they then start doing all of that, then I'll let them become a catechumen. But they have to start all of this first before I'm going to admit them as a catechumen. They've got to have a right, I love this word, phronima. They've got to have the right mindset if they're going to become an Orthodox Christian. They just can't come in as a quote unquote orthobro, whatever the hell that means, by the way. I mean, I know what it means, but people kind of throw that term around at anybody they don't like coming into the Orthodox Church. I've kind of noticed that too. Okay, having said that, let's talk about what is meant by orthobro. Now, if I were to ask people in the comment section right now or something like that, what do you mean by orthobro? I think there'd be a lot of different definitions, but there would be some sort of coalescing around the idea of an arrogant young man who thinks he knows it all and probably has never been to an Orthodox church. So it's all up here and none of it is right here. And I think that's the problem that we're facing. Now, having said that, I don't quite frankly think there's a lot of orthobros out there. And if they're only on the internet, who cares? I don't care about the people who are on the internet. I care about the people who are coming through the front doors of our parishes. And specifically, I care about the people who are coming through the front doors of my church. Now, having said that, if I ask people, and I've asked people repeatedly on the internet, on Facebook and elsewhere, who are you talking about that is an orthobro? I can't get them to pin down anybody by name. So the orthobro is this sort of amorphous blob of humanity out there that has no name, that has no face, but is just thrown around as a term and a pejorative term at that. at people that they don't like, who are saying things they don't like or acting ways they don't like and things like that. Now, if we're just talking about people like, and I will name names, if we're talking about people like Jay or David Erhan or the others like that, again, I think that's unfair. I think that's really, really unfair. These people have been at what they do for a long time now, when nobody else was out there sticking their neck out and trying to make the case for orthodoxy. They have been out there trying to make the case, and I've listened to their podcasts. So don't tell me that, oh, you haven't heard what they said. Oh, yes, I have. And if we're talking about Jay, can he be, shall we use the word abrupt and things like that? Yes. Has he said things that he shouldn't have said? Probably. I've said a lot of things I shouldn't have said, and I'm sorry about that. But I think it's a more complicated issue than that. We all say things in the heat of a moment, for example. But okay, so now I want to talk about something very specific regarding Orthobros. There is a ROCOR priest named Father Justinian Burnett, and his name in Facebook is exactly that, Justinian Burnett. Now today, as a matter of fact, he happened to write a post about Orthobros that I think is very interesting, and I think some of it was what he says in this post is exactly right on. Now I want to read some of it because this is going to be something we can talk about. So I'm going to begin with this post by Father Justinian Burnett on Facebook 3 hours ago. One of the more
wait, Father,
spiritually, I'm sorry, Justin.
Did you want to just link it? And I could put it on the screen.
Let me see how I can do that. Well, I can give you his Facebook post here. I'll put it in the comment so people can. Yeah, if you want to look it up, I mean, look it up. There's nothing to hide here. You know, he's written something, some of which I agree with, some of which I don't. That's what I want to make as the. Now, let me see actually if I can share this.
Okay.
So bear with me for a moment because I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. Let's see if this works. Okay. Can you see this? Justin, tell me if you can see this from Justin.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
His writing is very small, but it'll do.
What's that? I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead. You can read it.
Okay, so one of the more spiritually catastrophic developments, and I wouldn't call it spiritually catastrophic. However, this is his words, not mine. One of the more spiritually catastrophic developments in contemporary Orthodoxy is the emergence of the Orthobro manosphere, a fusion of internet masculinity culture, influencer economics, identity performance, and selectively weaponized religious language, all wrapped in enough incense and cargo culted Orthodox vocabulary to appear spiritually serious. Now, he's right in that there is an emergence of this thing, this Orthobro manosphere, that does fuse a lot of these things. I don't know that I would call it spiritually catastrophic because I haven't seen it produce spiritually catastrophic developments in either my parish, which is not indicative of anything in Orthodoxy, believe me, but I haven't heard it from the vast majority of other Orthodox priests that I speak to, either that I connect with via Facebook or any other way. I just don't see it. He does. Okay, these are his words. Its danger lies precisely in the fact that it often begins from a real wound. Now, here he's correct. And he goes on to talk about something that I feel is really, really important for us to understand. So this he gets right. Young men today are isolated, directionless, pornographically conditioned, alienated from meaningful labor, suspicious of institutions, spiritually starved, physically soft, emotionally malformed, and profoundly lonely. Amen, Father Justinian. I agree. Modernity has failed them badly. Again, I agree. So has a feminized society that seems to exalt feminist culture more than it does any kind of masculine culture. And any kind of masculine culture is called toxic masculinity. The tragedy is that instead of leading these men toward repentance, ascetic sobriety, sacramental life, and the healing of the soul through communion with Christ. Now, this is what I do in my parish, so this is where I can't relate to what he's about to say. Much of the Orthobro ecosystem simply redirects their insecurity into a religiously branded form of secular masculinity performance. And I want to know who is doing that, because I don't see it. Thus, Christianity quietly becomes subordinated to self-optimization. Prayer becomes discipline maxing. Fasting gives way to testosterone management. Asceticism becomes flattened into oh boy, I can't even pronounce that. Self-control. Patristics become masculine branding material. Priests have become influencers. I agree there. Deification is replaced by self-improvement for men who like beards, kettlebells, and monastic chants. I think that exists. I think certainly exists. I've seen it. But I disagree that it's to some sort of point or at some sort of level that is, as he begins his post, spiritually dangerous for all of Orthodoxy. I see it. I don't think it's as big as he thinks it is. But again, let's use this as a basis for discussion. One now sees the genuinely surreal spectacle of young men in online chats coaching one another on how to manipulate priests into granting fasting dispensations, because strict fasting might interfere with T-level optimization, gym performance, or physique goals. Again, I haven't seen this. Pause for a moment, and by the way, I have 3 MMA fighters in my church. I don't see them doing this. Pause for a moment and appreciate how spiritually inverted this is. The fast, which exists precisely to teach the body obedience, to weaken the tyranny of appetite, and to heal the will through voluntary limitation, is treated as an obstacle to bodily optimization within a framework borrowed almost entirely from secular biohacker culture. This is not asceticism. It is narcissism weighing a prayer rope. If he were right and this thing existed, now he seems to think it does, I would agree with him that that is not asceticism, that perhaps it is narcissism wearing a prayer rope. But again, I don't see it. And I'm on a lot of Facebook groups. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, probably more than I'm willing to admit. And again, I just don't see this. The fathers did not fast in order to become effective masculine specimens. They fasted in order to die. Agreed. I agree. But I don't see him quantifying how this is existing, where it's existing, how many men are involved, how many groups are doing this, what groups, name them. I would like to know. Maybe as a priest, it would be helpful for me to know what sites out there I should be steering my men away from. But I'm not seeing what he's seeing. This is why there are a lot of people over the last few years who have written posts like this. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. Who have written posts like this and who are claiming that there's this Orthobro culture. This is what it looks like. But again, when I ask people, where do you see this? In what parish do you see this? I'm not seeing it. Now, I know some people have pointed to people like Father Moses McPherson down in Texas, because he goes to the gym and he's a weightlifter and he's this and he's that and all kinds of things. That's one priest. And Father Justinian, he's in your jurisdiction. So again, what's happening that this is causing Father Justinian and others to be concerned? I'd like to know if anybody in the comments section would like to put something down here that would highlight exactly where we should be looking for more of this, because again, I don't see it. And I don't allow it in my parish, and I know too many priests who don't allow it in their parish. So where is this taking place, quite frankly? And by the way, fullness of faith, I think Father Moses is wonderful. I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm saying that he, according to Father Justinian, goes to the gym and exalts this kind of masculinity and so forth and so on, and talks about it. What, is he the problem? I don't think so. But then who are we talking about? So
you feel like you gotta kind of put a face to it, is what you're saying. If you're just gonna make it generic, is that kind of what you're saying, Father? It's like,
I'm saying exactly that this is very generic, and so that's why Father Justinian paints a picture of things of which we should be aware and of things about which we should be concerned and things like that. But again, when they come to our church, fathers, we should be dealing with this and saying to them, you don't want to do the fast because you're lifting weights. Sorry, that's not right. See, on something like that, I agree. I've not really seen that. I have, for example, I have a middle-aged guy come into my parish and say, Father, I eat a, what is it called? He eats this very, very high protein diet, like 2 steaks a day or something like that.
Carnivore diet.
Yeah, a carnivore diet. Yeah. And he says that's all he eats, and that's all he does eat because of a physiological conditioning thing. And I said to him, well, if you're going to fast, then can you cut 2 meals down to 1? And again, he wasn't even a catechumen when we talked about this. So he did. And this is the way we start people on things like that. But
yeah.
Again,
so Father, I will say this though. I think I feel you, and I'm glad you're sharing like your perspective on this. And by the way, guys, we want to open the phone lines. Like, you guys are welcome to hop in. We'd love to get your perspective if there is actually a problem. But to kind of weigh into something, I think that like people are not crazy. Like, even though there may not be a quote unquote orthobro problem in the strictest sense, like, people are experiencing something online and they're trying to make sense of it. And so I think we got to ask, like, man, is there things that we're doing, whether it's like, are we being harsh to people and trying to like one up, like if it's less about love and becomes more about like some kind of triumph, right? A triumph of orthodoxy. If we're doing something like that, then maybe we need to chill out. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, shout out to my broski Alex. Like, I think, when Alex and, like, for example, like Father Stephen do like streams and things like that, like, they're inviting people in very like, hey, let's be cool, let's have a conversation. It's not like a, hey, loser, I'm gonna destroy you. And so I think that we've all at times probably like super zealous. I have come from like a Calvinist tradition, so I know how it is when I first found Orthodoxy and how I could be. But like, if I'm trying to win people long term, my approach I should probably take a different approach. Like, it should be more about winning souls, because I want to draw people in. Like, that's the goal, So it's like, how do we do that, in a way that's winsome instead of a way that's like repellent, But we do have somebody that called in, and my brother Daniel. It's good to see you, man.
Christ is
What's
risen.
up? Indeed, he is risen. Indeed, he is risen. But Father, you might not remember this. Years ago, when I was an inquirer, you invited me to do like a live Zoom with you, and Daniel was there at my house. We were playing like Catan when you did that. Unfortunately, we're like 5 hours away now.
Hi, Daniel.
You remember that? Okay.
I love
do remember.
Father bless.
That must have been 2-3 years ago or something like that.
Probably was like four, five. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But Daniel, what's some of your thoughts? Have you seen some of the craziness online, and how do you see it from your perspective?
Yeah, I've been keeping up with a lot of it. My YouTube algorithms have collided, if that makes any sense, because I watched a lot of the anti-Islam stuff, and also I had the Orthodox stuff in the algorithm, and recently they've collided, to say the least. I won't go into the details. I'm sure most of the listeners are aware, but I just wanted to chime in and say I agree with a lot of what Father Jonathan was saying, and that's why I wanted to come on the live and show my face.
Put your face
I'm not
on
anonymous. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not one of those rabid orthobros, whatever that means, right? Because exactly what you guys were saying, like, define it for us first, and then I'll let you know whether I'm that or not, right? Because it almost seems like if you have an online presence and you're Orthodox, and you have exclusivity claims about what the church is, you're an Orthobro.
Mm,
And you're bad. Like,
yeah, it's
so
a
like, so if you're a Protestant, that's bad, right? And so you're an Orthobro because you say there's only one church, but that's what we believe.
right.
So
Like we can't
it,
hide.
it depends on how it's
Believe.
defined and how
Yeah.
you go about it.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Uh,
to chime in with that. Like
no,
you got to define the terms first.
that's a good point. Saying define the terms, because Father, I think there's truth there. Like anybody who holds to this exclusivity claim, it's like it seems like that's the main problem. And yeah, I mean, we can't deny that that's what our faith teaches. Like that's just the reality. Like we do believe that, that there is only one church, and we can't run from that reality. At the same time, I would say um like there's this one, like I think people are allowed to do whatever they want to do. So there's someone by the name of Avery. He does Muslim apologetics. He's Protestant, and I think he's been getting called out recently. If he doesn't want to focus on exclusivity claims of the church, I think he's free to do that. I don't think that makes him a grifter or anything like that. I don't think someone can make that claim with a sense of certainty. Maybe someone might have an opinion on it, but I think people are free to do what they want to do. So yeah, I don't know. Father, any thoughts on that? Daniel, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I'll let Father go first, and I only have a brief comment.
In my opinion, this phenomenon of orthobros is what it is. And by the way, I again want to emphasize, I'm not disagreeing entirely with what Father Justinian said. I actually agree with a lot of it. I just don't agree with this sense that it's the crisis or thing that or whatever that he or others make it out to be, because when these people encounter orthodoxy the way they do online, man, that testosterone starts flowing, and men are they're just naturally combating each other online because everybody wants to just assert themselves and so forth. And then they actually get to a parish, and the priest should say to him in so many words, "Shut up, sit down, listen, and learn how to pray and obey seek the will of God and obey it." So I think there's an online confrontation of will that occurs that needs to be broken when it gets to the parish. I mean, our will needs to be broken when it gets to the parish. But my point is, in our day and age with the internet, this phenomenon is amplified the way it is. If you go back and you look at the different waves of orthodoxy that have come into the church in the last, oh gosh, I would say like 60 years, each generation has kind of brought in its own sort of thing. And for example, when I was in seminary in the mid 80s, I was told by people at the time, I was in my late 20s, I was told by people who were in their late 30s and early 40s, that the people who would come in the 60s, for example, brought a lot of their sort of liberal, and I'm not using that word pejoratively, brought in a lot of their sort of liberal understanding of the way religion in the world was going with ecumenism, things like that, and then thought that stuff was just fine and dandy. But it wasn't exacerbated at the time because there was no mass movement coming into orthodoxy at the time. Now we kind of see that, and the internet is amplifying that. People bring in, I remember when in the late 80s, early 90s, on some email lists, mid 90s, that I was on, people that had come in with the evangelical Orthodox Church who had become Orthodox were encountering their first Advent and were kind of not knowing what to do with it because it wasn't like Lent. And maybe we can do the pre-sanctified during the weeks of Advent because, we do it in Lent. And there was this no sense of how to do things or when to do things or what to do things because they didn't have an Orthodox mindset and hadn't really lived it. They had just been chrismated and so forth, brought into the faith. And they were kind of bringing their own approach to it, what I would call a Protestant approach. Hey, what do we want to do? Let's do this. And they had to be told no, in so many words, sit down, shut up, listen, learn, and let the Orthodox, the rhythm of Orthodox parish life teach you what to do, how to think, how to speak, things like that. Okay, now we come to where we are now. And again, these people coming in from wherever they're coming in are bringing with them an attitude, and that attitude needs to be confronted. Yeah, and it was the Indiana list, I think. These people need to be confronted. They need to be told more nicely than they're telling people online. This is not the way Orthodox Christians talk to one another, act with one another, love one another, and so forth.
Yeah. Anything else, Daniel, that you're thinking of that you want to share, probably before we get to the next caller here?
Yeah, just on the whole Avery God Logic thing. I do think a lot of it is a big misunderstanding, right? Because there's
So
like
just
this.
Daniel, just give quick context. I don't know if Father Jonathan has seen any of that stuff. He was in Mount Athos, or anybody in the live may
Well,
not know what
I'm gonna give a very rough rundown, right?
Okay.
When the anti-Islamist apologists like get together, they're not all the same denomination. So there's almost this unwritten rules like, hey, we're attacking Islam here. We're on the same team in that sense, right? Some of them are Orthodox, some of them are Protestant, some of them are Catholic, but those discussions are not on the table. So there was like how do you say, some sort of alliance when it's going against Islam. But what happened was God Logic's main channel, raised his second channel, right, which is God Logic 2.0, who's run by a different person, by the way. They're not the same person. But that channel raids someone else's channel who's attacking Orthodoxy. So when that happens, you can see how the perception would be like, well, God Logic is attacking Orthodoxy, right? But there's so many little steps here and there, and all these people are intertwined and talking to each other, probably on the sidelines about different stuff, but they're not bringing it to the forefront. And then this happens, and it's like, okay, it's on, right?
Is that what this woman means by what she's saying here? Sewing circle Christian?
Criticizing other Orthodox to avoid criticizing people who are attacking Orthodox Christians.
Yes. So, and to add a little bit to that, I don't think, as of yet, I'm not on the Twitter battlefield, but we don't have God Logic's official position on what happened in that situation, right? So some people are claiming, oh, it's just a face of neutrality, but undercover or behind the scenes, Orthodoxy is being attacked, even though there's this unwritten rule that when we're going against Islam, we're just going to leave the denominational kind of like issues on the side. That's my interpretation of it all. That's me trying to be as generous as possible, but
Sure.
I can see how things can get a little hairy and sticky, but that's all that I'll say about that, because I don't have all the details. And
you know what I would hate to happen though, Daniel? So I would hate for like maybe somebody who's looking into these things from that camp, who are maybe, going against certain, like, the whole Muslim apologetic stuff, the Islam stuff, probably genuinely looking into Orthodoxy, but because of like how we approach them, sometimes they're just like, they get a bad taste in their mouth and don't want to touch it. Because I know, like, for me, like, I've been aggressive with some people, like, as it pertains to Orthodoxy in the, in the past, or whatever the case may be. And I'm talking about like before I was even on YouTube, where it's like, where I've done more good when I've just had loving conversations. We grab a bite, we have a like we dialogue, we chop it up, and it's like, wow, they can see like, man, there's truth to Orthodoxy. Orthodoxy makes sense. But if I automatically make them an opponent, I feel like even if they feel like you're right, or even if they feel like you're making a lot of sense, just the way that our sinful inclination is at times, like how we approach things, we want to push back to it, right? Imagine like when you're in think about like relationships in marriage or whatever. You can be making sound sense, but if you are, maybe approaching or being a nasty individual to your spouse or whoever you're talking to, it's hard for them to receive what you're saying. This is just like, this is not about, a lot of times they have something called virtue signaling or like, or piety signaling. This is not a matter of like, just like trying to do the correct thing, but there is a reality of like how we approach situations affect like certain outcomes. So I think we can reject like all the weight and baggage that's being thrown at Orthobros, but at the same time, like own up what we can own up and say, all right, maybe I am acting super aggressive, or maybe I am doing A, B, and C. How can I come at this differently? Because I think ultimately the goal has to always be to be winsome, like to love, like what can I do? And love doesn't mean, everything's always kumbaya. I think sometimes that gets misinterpreted, but I mean, how we approach people does matter, at the end of the day. And I'm just wondering, like, is there anything that we could learn from it and approach them differently? And we don't have to clap back the same way. Like if someone like JP or other people are making 30 streams about Orthodox, he's like, this is the 45th stream. Like, sheesh, like, relax. But yeah, go ahead, Father.
Yeah, just let me jump in on that one. I think there is in Orthodox apologetics culture, online or otherwise, I think there's a tendency to think that we have to step in and we have to defend the faith and hit back on anybody who attacks Orthodoxy. No, we don't. We don't have to reply to every single stupid claim that's made out there. The Holy Spirit will do that well enough. Jesus Christ said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Now, having said that, regarding this idea of being nice to other people outside of Orthodoxy, have you ever read the fathers criticizing the heretics and the schismatics? My Lord. Yeah. We're not talking nice, folks. I don't know what you think they've said, but it wasn't kumbaya. They were vicious. But in a way that was truthful, because these people were deliberately maligning the faith and deliberately slandering it and deliberately leading people into false teachings and to the gaping jaws of hell and all the kind of other imagery that the fathers use. So this idea that we have to go out there and defend everything. Now here's the other thing. Let's agree on this. YouTube has given Orthodoxy an outsized presence that is not in keeping with how big we are here in America. And we can go up against anybody. And when you've got people like Jay Dyer appearing on the Piers Morgan show and things like that, I mean, some of these guys are breaking into kind of an upper tier of things. When you've got this kind of presence that is being recognized outside of our church, Rachel Wilson, same thing. I mean, there's just example after example. This is an outsized presence compared to who we are as a percentage of the American population, and it's what equalizes everything. And so the idea that you've got a million people criticizing Orthodoxy doesn't take a million Orthodox to respond to it, because we can go out there and we can put something out, and our videos might get 50,000 or 100,000 views, and their videos might only get 451. So it's not like we have to worry about defending things. The Holy Spirit is going to act through a lot of the work we're doing and touch the lives of the people that God wants to touch. And I've got to respond to one thing before we continue. No, I'm not.
Definitely not.
I hope that's very clear. I hate ecumenism. End of discussion. Okay. So we're going to say the right things. Justin and I have been doing this for going on 3 years now, this coming July. And I have to say we've had the privilege, really the privilege and the honor of hearing back from some of our people who have listened to our stuff and have said beautiful things like, man, that really helped me. Man, that really convinced me to come closer to the faith. And I was thinking of leaving, but now I'm going to stay. I mean, it's some of it's mind blowing, Justin. Some of the things we've heard and read, and people that have gotten back to us. And who are we? You know, I got a little parish out here on Long Island. Justin's down in Florida. He and I have never even met, for crying out loud. But yet we're able to get together and do something that has touched the lives of other people, because the Holy Spirit uses what we do for his purposes, to grow the church and to reach people with the truth of the gospel. I'm not worried about having to match every claim out there. People all are not that stupid where they hear someone criticize Orthodoxy and go, oh, he must be right. Some people do that. But some people hear others criticize Orthodoxy, and you know what they do? They go, oh, he mentioned the Apostolic Fathers. Let me go look that up. And they're looking that up, and they're buying the books on the Apostolic Fathers and St. John Chrysostom and St. Basil the Great on the Holy Spirit and St. Athanasius on the Incarnation. And they're reading the Fathers for themselves, and they're going, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like anything my Protestant church believes in or teaches. Oh, I should look into the Orthodox Church more. And they do, and the numbers speak for themselves of the people coming to the church.
Well said, well said. Father, let me quickly read some super chats, and then we'll
Sure.
We have another caller, and we'll join him in. Seraphim, not $10. Thank you so much for support. He said, Christ is risen. Father, any ballpark estimate on the price for next year's trip?
Yeah, the price of the tour, which includes everything, once you land and then once you leave, is about $2,400, and then plus your airfare.
Okay. Yeah, once I hit the lottery, I'm gonna join you next year. So, but thank you for the super chat. But no, I'd love to go. Daniel, you should go too, man. You should come to Mount Athos.
It would be cool, but
Hey, start putting away $200 a month. That's all.
Yeah, this man's an engineer. He's very busy, tied down with the family. I get it, man. All right. $20. Thank you so much. He said, we don't evangelize everyone the same way. Some are convinced by our kindness, and others, like me, were hard-headed and needed a bit of a verbal berating. It's just as difficult to discern when this is applicable. I think there's truth to that. I agree with what the brother here is saying. So Daniel, you know this. I think I forgot who I shared this with. Maybe it was Alex Soren. But before I was Orthodox, I was in some people don't know this, I was in a back and forth with Jay Dyer when I was a Protestant. And obviously I hid my face from the cam. I didn't want to be seen. I just wanted to test some things out. But I like some of that toughness. Like, I like it to be straightforward. And I was already convinced of Orthodoxy then. I just wanted to make sure, like, the arguments that I was, crossing the T's and dotting my I's on certain things. And so that was a very helpful discussion and encounter. But I was okay with the straightforwardness, the direct, kind of in your face kind of answers, because it's just the way that I'm wired. Some people are wired like that. And I think there's a space for a different approach, right? Like, people learn differently. But at the same time, and this is I'm just speaking in generalities here. Like, I just think that the Proverbs are true. Like, we do have there's wisdom. Like, at the end of the day, I could be straightforward. You could be straightforward with your children, but you're not gonna call your children, whether it's demeaning names. And you have certain people, like, when they're attacking Islam, there's certain rhetoric. I guess there's space for that. Your audience, your person. But at the end of the day, like, there's just certain things that you tend to realize, like, okay, is this becoming of a priest? Like, right, if I see, like, for example, Father Jonathan, which you would never do this, but Father Jonathan, like I don't know, cussing someone out and like, I'll punch you in the face or something like that, it would just be like, it's a little distasteful. You know what I mean?
Can I say
go
one
ahead,
thing, and then you can drop me to that point? When I was looking into Orthodoxy, I remember going on Facebook. I don't know if you had your Facebook group on at that time, but I remember being in conversations harsh conversations with some of the people in the comments, and I was on the other side.
Yeah.
And Athanasius Ting, if you're out there somewhere, when you brutalized me in those comments, it made me think and change my ways. So thank you for that.
But you know what,
thanks for having me
Daniel,
on.
that's an interesting point, and Luther just brought up the super chat from the gentleman a moment ago. Some of us respond to love and kindness and all of. Okay, yeah. Some of us respond to love and kindness. Some of us, and I kind of fall into this category, have to be St. Paul knocked off his horse by the blinding light and fall to the ground and be hurt and inconvenienced and humbled by such an experience before our heart and our mind can kind of connect and both open up to the reality of the truth that's being presented to us. I know I fall into that category, and I know that there are some of us that do, and thus there is a place in the public arena for such debate and things like that.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop my boys.
Daniel, thank you very much for joining us. God bless you, brother.
And thank you, Father bless, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. All right. Another super chat here. Brett, thank you so much. He said, sorry I'm late. Can't wait to catch up. Brett gave us some prayer ropes, and thank you so much.
I got mine. Thank you, Brett. I got to get back to you on that.
That is so kind of you. So thank you for your generosity, and
amen.
Sure. Yeah, appreciate that. One more here. Thank you so much. $10. This is Mouthbeats. He says, or she, Orthobros, from my view, are well-informed young men who, through perhaps overzealous, are keenly aware that Orthodoxy is the last bastion of truth in this world, and they simply want to protect that. I respect that. Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah, I think it happens where people are super excited when they find a new truth, and they're zealous to share it with the world. I know I was that way. I was literally when I was Protestant, I was telling people about Orthodoxy. You know what I mean? And so I totally kind of sympathize with that understanding, wanting to share this beautiful truth with people. And I think, Father Jonathan, you hit it on the nail when you said, a good spiritual father helps kind of guide us along the way in how we have that zeal and how we're working out that flame. I know Father Philip Contos, he was the priest that catechized me, was very gracious to me, and he let me know it's not all about debates, and it's all, he helped me through my Calvinism and all that. And it's okay. It's okay if people are a little bit excited. We just want to tailor that with wisdom. So I appreciate that.
By the way, we at some point into a discussion like this, there has to come a discussion about what the scripture means by speaking the truth in love. Now, love does not mean kumbaya. I understand that. Love can sometimes be very tough and so forth. But I think there's a way. It's always not what we say, it's the way we say it. And we can't always have a one-size-fits-all when we're talking to people. Some people need the love and that, and some people need to be thrown off their horse by the lightning bolt. So knowing the difference is wisdom. Knowing the difference is a gift of wisdom from God, to know what to say to whom has been placed in front of you at that point in time, how they need to be addressed. And the one-size-fits-all sometimes does not do that. I want to address something here. I don't know what Moses is saying here, what exactly he means here. I think that the idea of what ecumenism means needs to be addressed, because Father Peter Heers and I, about a year ago, Justin and Father Peter and I had a very controversial episode that had to be taken off the air. But we did speak about this. And one of the things that Father Peter and us kind of realized is that people mean different things by the word ecumenism. Now, if you mean by that, the sort of what I call the kumbaya heresy, that we're all the same and blah, blah, blah. No, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me, which excludes Judaism and Buddhism and Muslims and all of that other kind of stuff. But even within Christianity, since his body is the church, and therefore the church, his body, has said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Since the truth has been proclaimed through his body, which is the church, then that means the Orthodox Church is the only way. I hope that makes it clear.
Yeah. Father, I'm going to add, we have another caller in here. Let's see if we could get him in there. Simpleton, can you hear us?
Hello, I can. Good.
Oh,
Is it morning or good evening for you guys? It's good evening for me.
Good afternoon for us.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Where are you at?
UK?
Okay, the UK. So what time is it for you over there?
Like 6 p.m.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. What's
Good
on
to
your
have you
mind?
join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Go on.
What's on your mind?
I think I wanted to say that I think there's a balance that has to be struck with the quote-unquote online Orthobro problem. I think on one side, I think people just don't want to hear the truth. I think that's a big thing. I think it hurts a lot of people to hear that, hey, the church or denomination you're part of isn't the authentic display of Christianity. I think that hurts a lot of people, and so because of that, it makes people react and find any way to kind of discredit the information that you're giving them. Especially for me, I grew up in a Pentecostal background, and like reading Father Seraphim Rose's Orthodoxy and his book, The Religion of the Future, and then also trying to then me in my journey kind of moving away from Pentecostalism. When people ask you, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why do you not agree with us in this respect? It does really hurt people. And I think Jordan Peterson has said that when people have to kind of change their identity, a part of them dies in some sense. So that's definitely hurtful. And I think a lot of people are looking for ways to kind of avoid that, having to go through that process, having to go through that refinement by orthodoxy by saying, oh, you guys are mean. At the same time, though, there have been instances whereby, like, I think in the past couple of weeks, it just feels like orthodoxy online has just become like a drama cycle. I'm not saying this directly to anybody, but I think Justin, you and I went in the same thread for a comment section, and we both had,
Okay.
we just had to say like, oh, like there was a certain incident that happened online with Twitter Spaces, and then we had to be like, hey, like this isn't orthodoxy. This is not acceptable. Like, because people.
Can you remind me what the problem was?
People were just saying things, racially insensitive stuff. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Okay. And so I had to be like, hey, like this is not acceptable. But then at the same time, like arguments, like points do need to happen. And I think it's just people are looking for those outliers online to be like, hey, this is what orthodoxy looks like. Like they'll take the worst of what some anonymous face on Twitter says, and they'll be like, hey guys, this is what, if you join the Orthodox Church, this is what you'll become. I think I was in a YouTube space online myself, and then I think I was talking to these people who were non-Orthodox, and then I think people thought I was having a hard time because currently I'm not fully received into the church, and so because people are asking, okay, if you are inquiring into Orthodoxy, why are you inquiring? And so the hosts were like we were getting into back and forth, and one guy jumped into the live, and he just crashed out on the hosts. And the host and he's Orthodox, the guy who jumped in. And then the host said, oh, look, you as an acquirer, this is who's kind of leading you into the faith, etc. They're using that person's bad example to kind of paint orthodoxy in that bad brush. So I think there are two sides of it. People don't want to hear the arguments. People don't want to hear, hey, like the Christianity, quote unquote, that you're part of isn't healthy for your soul, and it's not authentic. But at the same time, some people aren't doing this online orthodoxy thing with grace and truth. I don't want to go on too much, but I just want to say that, it's part and parcel.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your perspective here. So would you say that, like, what would you what would you say is like something that we can take away from what you're observing online? Like, because I've seen, I don't know what specific comment section you said that we both were a part of, but I have seen things where people are making certain comments and it's like, ooh, like I can't get on board with this, but at the end of the day, like this is not an example of all of Orthodoxy. And I think everybody's saying the same thing, like, hey, a few fringe people online doing A, B, and C is not representative of what real Orthodox life looks like.
Yeah, I agree. I in terms of what we could do, I don't. It's tough because I really because these topics are really serious, right? Like when you have to say that, hey, the reformers or the Roman Church like is in serious error. People don't want to hear that. Like if you think about it, the papal church is 1 billion people strong. For you to say, hey, that church has been in error for the past 1,000 years, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear how Luther, like as much as he tried to do a good thing and reform what he was in, did some really nasty things to the idea of the faith or to the life of the faith, or what Calvin did, right? So it's difficult. I would say Orthodoxy needs to come at it with grace and truth, the combination of those two. And I think it's just getting people to ask themselves questions like, hey, present them this was the faith of the 1,000 years. This was the faith of the first early Christians. Why is it that your church doesn't reflect this? Just getting people to ask themselves the question. And sometimes, yes, some people do need a back and forth to untie the knots in their head. But should that be the majority of our content, being, hey, debate? Like, is it every day there has to be a call-in show to debate? Do you get what I'm saying?
I see what you're
tough.
saying.
It's tough.
And I think there is a space for apologetics. Like if that's somebody's realm. I mean, to be fair to like the Orthodox people that have the live call-in debate shows, like there's also when Protestant apologists do the live shows with Muslims. I mean, that's their thing. Like that's what they're doing. Like that's their realm. So I think I think there's a space for that. I think we just notice it a little bit more on our end because we're getting attacked from all angles, right? I mean, there's Protestants that are upset with us, Roman Catholics upset with us.
Yeah.
We also have inside our own house, like some Orthodox people saying, hey, like what's going on here? Like there's a little bit here that I'm not too happy about. So I think we notice it a little bit more because let's think about it. Like a lot of people are not talking about as much the transfigured life where, or when I say transfigured life, I'm talking about like the blessed life, like what it means to be an Orthodox Christian. I mean, it's out there, but like, you have Father Spiridon having important reflections online. That doesn't, even though he's probably one of the biggest Orthodox influences on the whole internet, we notice the negativity more, right? Because that's just the way the world works. Just like the news, in the news.
Yeah, it's the algorithm.
Yeah, it's the algorithm is feeding us what the negativity of what's happening out there. So we notice that more than the positive report. And that's why I think it's good sometimes for us to balance that more, hearing more positive stories of lovely people coming into the faith or even like healthy reflections. Like Father did this series with Orthodox women coming to the church, which I thought was a wonderful series.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, just hearing these lovely stories, but Subhata, I appreciate you sharing there. Any additional thoughts? I know we have someone else in the queue. And Father, I don't know if you wanted to.
No, let's go on with Jake the Guitar God, our next guy.
Yeah. Well, Simpleton, I appreciate you, man.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, I can see. Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen.
Hey, Jake. Truly is risen.
How you guys doing?
Good. I see you on the road. How's everything?
Yeah, I just got off of work a little bit ago. I was listening to you guys. But I am Orthodox, obviously. Well, it's not obvious, but I did want to maybe talk about the Orthobro stuff. Obviously, the question I've been noticing about this stuff is that I also listen to your guys' stream in the middle of it, so I don't even know what you guys' opinion are completely on it. But I got enough to know.
Mhm.
But I think the Orthobro quote unquote problem is just a misunderstanding, not asking the right questions as to what exactly that is. And in my opinion, I think the Orthobro title showed up when it comes to just the debating, and where somebody might be just not being nice. And I don't agree with the whole niceness thing. I know for me, and again, there's also, different ways to come into the faith. But yeah, I'm a grown man. I if somebody was nice to me about this or that, I would just kind of shrug them off.
Right.
I'm a truck driver. I don't like, if you're overly nice, I just think you're weird. And I also I come from a Protestant background where the whole niceness thing was not, it was just a cloak and dagger type thing. I think the Jay Dyer saying that it was business church is a part of the business model of niceness. Even when I was young, growing up Protestant, I was told all kinds of crazy stuff while they were speaking in tongues, quote unquote, just so you can give them more money. Mega churches. I've been past Baptist churches and all these other things. I used when I first got baptized and everything, I was really disgusted with Protestantism, but more or less now, for me, I just pray for them, and I know it's hard to be Protestant right now. But ultimately, when it comes to this topic of Orthobro, I think it's a bunch of bullcrap, in my opinion.
Mm.
I think it's just a way to attack. I think it's mainly for Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson or anybody else that might be a little bit controversial. I think that's really what it is, and it subverts. It's to subverse the church. I know when people that come into our parish, I've only been baptized since August, and I already have 2 people that are wanting me to be their godfather. That's not a boast or anything. I don't think I'm the right person to do that, but I asked my father, spiritual father, and he accepts it, and he says he thinks it's fine. So, if he says it's fine, it's fine. But I didn't even think I still don't think I'm the best person for it. But these people are wanting me to be their godfather because I was very welcoming. When they showed up, I was extremely welcoming to them, and I met them where they're at when it comes to talking about any of it. This idea where Orthodox all just, when somebody else isn't Orthodox, we just automatically attack them with Orthodoxy is just ridiculous. I've seen all of the Andrew Wilson debates. We have to separate the educational and the what's the word? I'm thinking of the entertainment. Andrew Wilson's an entertainer. It does, just because he is entertaining with how he debates or whatever, doesn't mean that's also tied to Orthodoxy. Just because he does that and he's Orthodox doesn't mean that everything that he does is Orthodoxy. I think it's a ridiculous statement. And this is stemmed from clips taken out of context, where it takes like a little part of where it got heated, where the 7-hour debate that I've listened to, because I drive all the time, I'll listen to these debates for all day long. Not only these debates, but other things. That the entire debate is just like controversial. Like I've seen all of them, and from the very beginning, it's not controversial. They set up their things and all this other stuff, and then move along the line. And when it gets controversial, it gets kind of heated, and then it goes back down. It happens. And even one-on-one debates with other people. I have a grandfather that I talk to every day, and he's Protestant. I actually make sure I don't argue with him about this, but we've had debates about all kinds of stuff. And at the end of the day, we still love each other. We respect each other as men, and we move along. I think this outrage is feminine. in my opinion. I think that's done. I'm done with my rant. Sorry.
No, that's a fair rant, man. You
All
got a
right,
cool
Jack, thank you very much. We want to go on. There's another super chat we have. I don't think we've gotten to this one yet. And it is somewhat tied into the idea of
He's like, he's done with his rant. Kick him off.
sorry, Jack. We appreciate you being on. God bless you, and be safe out there.
Hold on. He wanted to say one final thing, Father. Hold on 1 second. Wait, go ahead, Jake.
Oh, I can't hear Father Jonathan at all. I don't know why.
Okay. Father, he can't hear you.
I don't know what to do about that.
Okay.
Is it something on my end?
I'm not sure, man. Not sure. But Jake, we appreciate you. I'll just say before you head out, I mean, there's a lot of truth to what you're sharing. I mean, we Father Jonathan said it earlier, like he doesn't think that that it should be the onus on the Orthobros, but ultimately, like, we gotta catechize and shepherd and stuff like that. Talking from a priestly perspective is what he said. So
yeah, I'm sorry that I can't hear you. I do want to hear what you're saying, but really quick, when it comes to Orthodoxy, I don't have time for reading. I have lots of time for listening, so I listen. And if I wasn't, if I didn't look at through YouTube personally, I look at YouTube for educational purposes, for truth, whenever I need to verify things. Sometimes, not entirely, obviously. I don't think that like YouTube has all of the answers, of course, but also entertainment and debate was part of like the truth and the educational and the. That's kind of what debate does. It kind of hits everything, depending on where you're coming from. And through that, I found Orthodoxy. Now, it doesn't mean I think that I think a lot of people's points about people being online all the time. I agree with this. This is ridiculous. My opinion, and I'll say this whenever you guys are ready to. Like, I'll leave whenever. Actually, I need to get off in a second. But if you're not Orthodox, become Orthodox. But if you are Orthodox, go to Vespers and go to liturgy. I go there every week when I don't have anything else going on, which isn't much. Go to liturgy always, every week. It's extremely important.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Jake. And man, safe travels to you. We'll safe travels to wherever you're headed. But yeah, we'd
yeah,
be
thank you guys. God bless.
Take care, man. All right.
Okay, I want to get to this super chat right here. Can you all speak to how the heterodox manipulate respect and love into ecumenism, saying we're now one body? Well, they're saying we're one body. We're not saying that. You may have some people in Orthodoxy who think, kumbaya, but the Orthodox Church does not believe that. But I can see how this works. And this is kind of a good question, actually, because a lot of our own people get trapped into this. Well, and it usually begins with comments like, well, don't you think, or don't you believe? And of course, what that seems to infer is we have a good opinion here. You agree with it, obviously. And if you don't, what's wrong with you? You're being mean. You're being unkind. You're suggesting that we're not Christians. And of course, that leads into a much wider conversation of who's in the church and who isn't. But the fact of the matter is, this idea of loving and respecting one another to the point where differences do not matter, and that differences are divisive, and therefore we won't pay attention to them. That is the problem with a lot of ecumenical dialogue and talk, is that it proceeds from the standpoint of how can you possibly say that we're not members of the body of Christ? And there are a lot of people on the Orthodox side. I don't know about a lot. There are some, on the Orthodox side who are not willing to say that, and that everything is fine and everything is good. And we all believe in the same God and everybody's going to heaven and stuff like that. That's not what Orthodoxy believes. That's not what Orthodoxy teaches. But in our day and age, being nice has become an infectious heresy, quite frankly, and it leads to an obfuscation of the truth, and it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's a good point, Father. And there's a difference between just merely being nice, like nice. There's nice and there's kindness, right? I mean, we obviously want to be kind, and I know sometimes that could be understood, interchangeably. But the reality is, like, it's not just about niceness for the sake of being nice, right? We're not here to coddle. We're not here to coddle people. We want to share the truth and love, like you said. So there's a way that we want to handle things and approach things. But also, I mean, the fathers have said this, or at least there's a father. He says, "Acquire a spirit of peace, and thousands will be saved." There is a way that we want to, like, approach the world and interact with the world. I'm just convinced that there's about 31 chapters in Proverbs. I just don't think that with all that's said in there, that we just have the green light to act any kind of way in the name of, like, sharing the truth. I think, it's a beautiful thing that we want the truth and we want to share it. We just obviously want to use wisdom as we do that. We have another super chat here, Father.
Good.
Let's see. Thank you so much. This person says $10. Orthobros, from my view, are well. Did I read this one already?
I think we read this. Yeah, this came up already.
Okay, I read that one. Okay, sorry. This is what this person said. It says, "We love Orthobros at our parish. They all stand in front, and my wife and I endearingly refer to it as Orthobro row." That's the Orthobro.
That's funny. I like that one.
There you go. Yeah, no, yeah, love for all people. Sister over here said, I don't know if this was meant for us to read. I think the debate can be a double-edged sword. We're using our logic and reason to make a spiritual choice. I don't know. That might be referring to something else. But good to see you, sis. This woman here is very bright. I've had conversations with her on many occasions. All right, Father. Any concluding thoughts for us?
Well, I think that we spend a lot of time in arguments like ecumenism or in arguments like Orthobros or things like that, focusing on what's external to parish life. If it's not affecting you, stay away from it. If you don't like listening to Orthobros, don't listen to them. If people who don't like Orthobros stop listening to them, I don't know that they would have half the audience they now have. But the other thing is, if there is an ethos developing in your parish that is being influenced by people coming in who are upsetting other people because of their attitude, then I think you have to go talk to the priest about it and tell the priest that there is something about, Father, are you talking to these men? Are you talking to these people? What are you telling them? Because they're upsetting other people with the things they are saying. I think that the priests need to hear this more, because sometimes the very people that I hear complain in certain groups, Facebook groups, for example, that I moderate or whatever, say things like, "Oh, the priest is so busy, I never get to speak to him." Nonsense. No priest is that busy that you can't speak to him. Sometimes you may have to insist on it, but sometimes you may have to insist on it for the good well-being of the parish. Father, these guys are saying stupid things. They are upsetting people. You need to address this. What are you going to do? And when are you going to do it? I think in many ways our clergy are held in very good esteem by the people in their parish, but too often I think people are afraid to go to them and say, "Father, we have a problem, and you need to do something about it, and you need to do something about it very soon before it gets out of hand." So to the laity, don't be afraid to speak up and talk to your clergy and let them know that something is happening. They may not know. If you're complaining that they don't have enough time for you, maybe they don't have enough time to talk to those orthobros. So make sure that they make the time and address the issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Well said, Father. Very, very good advice. So I definitely think that, yeah, I mean, you said it best. I mean, you could talk to your priest, and people could address people directly. I think if you see some of this going on online, like if you see somebody in the comment section doing that, no matter who streamed, it could be anybody, it could be our chat. Like if we're doing something that is obviously like hostile and unloving to others, call it out. Because I think if there's an echo chamber where we're thinking, oh, okay, well, this person is, we can't say anything to anybody that's doing something that's wrong, because they're technically defending our side. This person's Orthodox, so I can't say nothing because they're Orthodox. Then you've made a certain kind of allegiance with, you've kind of put your ethics to the side for a moment. At the end of the day, like if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm whether if I'm being disrespectful to women, or if I'm using racist rhetoric, or whatever I'm doing, call me out. And
Right.
you should be able to correct anybody on that. Nobody gets a pass. Obviously, there's different channels, right? I wouldn't like call out a priest just like that, right? Like I'm sure priests probably talk to other priests. Obviously, you probably want to address somebody privately, but you can't just criticize not criticize, but critique one way, but never say anything about like anyone else, especially when it comes to like your own ethics, right? Sorry, before we dip out, Father, I see one more super chat. I don't want to forget it. Says, so it's Orthodox Bill. He says, thank you so much, Father, for standing so firm in your faith. I too am like Paul, was brought in by firmness and seriousness of faith versus being nice. I like that. Yeah, I mean, we weren't necessarily called to be nice. Yeah, very, very, very well. But we do want to share the truth. We want to share love. Sister here says we have a couple Orthobros at our parish too. That's funny. Yes.
And by the way, in 1 Corinthians 13, the famous love chapter, when St. Paul talks about love is, and he mentions a whole bunch of things, most of those words that explains what love is are verbs, by the way, they're action words. Nowhere in that chapter is the word nice used.
Yeah.
Polite, things like polite and respect and so forth, that's different than nice. Because people can be passive aggressively nice and be firmly opposed to whatever it is you're saying or doing.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your piece. For anybody that has some thoughts on some of this stuff, feel free to let us know in the comment section if we didn't get a chance and we missed you. Thank you, Father. I believe that's a father. If you're not, forgive me, but thank you, Father, for your kind words. We appreciate that. Until next time. Somebody sent this real quick. I guess someone else is having a stream. So if you guys want to check out Jerome, I don't know how to do the whole redirect. I'm very new to this, but until next time, we'll be back. God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.